So far, the connections we have made to blockchains have been the public networks. We have connected either to the main network or one of the test networks. You might be wondering, how can I run my own small blockchain? How can I run a public blockchain? Well, there's a project called Ganache that I'm going to search for here. And I will enter blockchain, otherwise I will get the chocolate recipes. And as you can see here, it is the first item that comes up. And as I was starting to say, this is a project for you to experiment with your understanding of blockchain. It is a place where you can develop your contracts and your code before you deploy onto the public networks. It turns out to be a great utility for exploration, for education, and also for development. So I'm going to go ahead here and download the macOS version. It's asking me whether I really want to download it. I'm then going to go ahead and expand. Once that is available, I'm going to drag and drop onto my applications. And as you can see, I have it here. I'm going to go ahead and close that window behind the scenes. I will go ahead and delete this one. I no longer need it. I'm now going to go ahead and open up Ganache. I'm going to open up my applications folder. I'm going to double click on Ganache. And by simply opening up this application, I am creating my own small, and I have to confirm here because it is a download I made from the web that I wanted to run. But by simply running this application at a one-click action, I'm going to go ahead and create a private blockchain network that I can use for my own use. As I mentioned before, it is great for education, it is great for practice, it is great for development as well. So I'm going to go ahead here and simply go with a quick start, and I'll make some comments once the user interface shows up. And as you can see here, we get a number of accounts that have been created by default. You can see there that each of those accounts has a balance. You can also see that we have access to the private key, and I'll show in a minute why we want to do that. You can also see that there has been one block created, and in this environment, new blocks get created as needed. There are no transactions because we just created it. And if we go to the logs, you can see there that this is a fresh blockchain environment. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to accounts. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to connect through MetaMask onto this blockchain. And it's important here to note what it is that we're doing. In the past, when we have used MetaMask, we have used it to connect to the Ethereum blockchain. It's also possible to use it locally and to use that object that lives within the page to connect programmatically. So not through the UI, but to connect programmatically back to the server. In this case, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be connecting to this small local blockchain that we have just instantiated. In order to do that, we need to be able to know where it lives. And for that, we'll go to the server here, and I'm going to change the port simply because MetaMask has that built-in port already. And so if I save it and I restart, I have now restarted in that port. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy the private key. And the reason I'm doing that is because in a moment, I will use it to import this account into MetaMask, and we will then be able to move some funds just to confirm that we're in fact operating on this local blockchain. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the private key. Well, actually, let me make sure I have it. Going to go ahead and highlight it, copy it, press done. I'm going to go back to MetaMask, and now I'm going to change networks. If we scroll down, as you can see here, localhost 8545 is already one of the configurations that is built into the UI. We could also create a custom one, but this one's simply quicker. So I'm going to go ahead and connect. And as you can see here, Alice has 0 Ether. That's because there is no account really for her in this environment. And so what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to import an account with the private key that I have in memory. I'm going to paste that on here, and then I'm going to go ahead and import. And as you can see here, that account 3, has 100 Ether, which is really the very first account that you see here. So 0xe49, and as you can see here is 0xe49. So now we're going to go ahead and send some money to Alice so she can have some money within this environment. I'm going to go ahead and send 10 Ether. I'm going to be very generous. I'm going to scroll down here so I can click on next. And then the screen after that is where I confirm that transaction. As you can see, that transaction has been confirmed. And if I take a look here at the balance on account 3, you can see that I have 89 because it is 10 plus the gas that was spent. And if I change accounts back to Alice, you can see that Alice now has 10 Ether. Now, if we go back to the blockchain, you can see here that the first account no longer has 100 Ether because we transfer 100 Ether out. And you can see there that the balance is now 90. Now, more than that, if we go to the blocks, we'll see that there is a new block that was mined. And if we look inside of it, we would see the transaction that took place. We can also simply look under the transactions tab there that we can take a look at the details of this transaction, and we can see the value that was transferred in the accounts that it was transferred between. There are no contracts at the moment, but if we take a look at the logs, we can see there that there's a lot more activity. So going back to what I mentioned at the beginning, this is a local instance of a blockchain. We're using the Ganache environment. There's also some additional tools that you can use, but this one is very practical in the sense that it is graphical. You can immediately see the impact of what you're doing. You can confirm that what you think is taking place is in fact taking place. And you can interface it programmatically as well, not just through the UI using MetaMask, but using a command line tool or some other mechanism through which you can access this blockchain.